All right, so we're going to look at defining piecewise defined functions in Desmos. We start with pulling up just the generic Desmos calculator here. We're going to see that we can run into some problems as we do bigger piecewise defined functions. And so along those lines, let's get started. I'm going to use the piecewise defined function from lesson 2, part A. And so I'm just going to start with an f. Now in there we have a p, but we'll see why I'm not starting with a p. I'm going to say f. Then I'm going to hit a 1. And notice it automatically makes it a subscript, and then my open parenthesis for x, and there's f of x. Again, I'm using an x. In lesson 2, when we define the function, we use an n for number of tattoos, but it's best with Desmos as much as possible to use an x. Okay, so we do that. Now I'm going to define the piecewise rules. And to do that, we need a rule and we need the domain over which, or the interval over which it's defined. In Desmos, you do those in the opposite order. You tell it the interval first, then the rule. And we use brackets, these curly braces or brackets to put everything inside. So now I'm going to do the 1 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 5. There's the first interval. Use a colon to tell it I'm ready for the rule. Then 4.98x, that was the rule. Now a comma to go to my second interval, and that was 6 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 12. So there's the second interval, my second rule, I put a colon, and that was 2.98x. And then a third rule, notice I'm running out of room up here, but it will scroll for me. So I do a comma, and my third interval, 13 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 24. So we have that. Now my rule with the colon, that one was 1.98x. And I'm going to stop there. I could go on for a bit, but at some point this won't let me keep going. And it gets kind of hard to see what's going on. So notice I do have this, it started plotting it over here, but I can't see much of it. And so that starts us with, one issue is, okay, well, I can grab this with my mouse by doing a left click and dragging it around and panning it that way. Now, I could either then here zoom out that way or use my mouse wheel and zoom out that way. And so I do this, and I see all 3 pieces there, and this isn't bad. We'll look in a moment if I need to fix this a little more, but for right now this is not too bad, and I can kind of see what's going on. Now if we go back here, so if I click in here, I can't see the whole thing at one time. Now something you can always do, if you get on the edge here, the margin at where the graph meets the input, I can grab it and slide things back and forth. And so for right now, actually, I'm going to slide it over so I can see everything at once. Okay, so there's one part in. Now I'm going to do a second part, and so I could really only fit 3 of my pieces on there, but I've got a lot more for that lesson 2 project. And so I can either just click down here or click in here and hit enter, or hit a plus up there and add another input. But I do that. Now, if I want, I could highlight this whole thing, do a copy, and I don't see paste on there. So I'm going to try doing my copy by doing a Control C, clicking in here and doing Control V, and there I copied it. Now it's exactly what I had before, but I could go in here and I could change each part individually. Now I could just retype the whole thing. You know, it's really whatever your preference is, but I just wanted to show I could do this. So there's 25. This needs to become a 49. The next interval is 50 to 99. So I'm fixing those. And then my last interval is, what was that? 100 to 199. So I have that one. And now I don't see them anywhere because I think they're way up to the right over there, but let me finish by putting in the correct constants. Instead of 498, this one is 0.95. Right, I think I have that 0.95x. Yeah, from 25 to 49. Yeah, that looks okay, and it's just a little below 25. Sure, okay. So I think that's fine. Here, that one is 0.612. And then finally, the last one is 0.4. And I can see it all there. I look at it, I think it's fine. Now, the 0.95 is about $1. I can look at numbers down here, and I see there's 25, and it cost me a little less than $25. Okay, so there I've input these, but now the final one here, the 0.4x from 100 to 199 is not there. So again, I could zoom out a bit and see it that way. But now notice as I zoom out, I've got all this white space up here that I don't really want. And so what I can do is if I click on the wrench, I can go to settings. And you know, maybe my x-axis is fine, but my y-axis, I'd like that to stop at maybe 100, and that way I can see a little bit more of it. Then I just click here, and I can change that at any time. But now as I zoom, it kind of keeps that same ratio of x to y. And you know, I can zoom in and out, and I can see my functions there. Now you see I've got those pieces, and if I want to evaluate something, I could say f1 of 4, do that, and it tells me, oh, that's 19.92, and f1 at 4, so you know, it gets hard to see down here. I'd have to zoom in quite a bit, I think, to find 4. But when I do that, there's 4 for x, and I come up here and there's 3.96, 3.99, 19.87. Oh, there's 4 and 19.92, and so I see they agree. You know, it's you know, I can click on that line and just kind of look at these numbers, and yep, they agree. So you know, that looks like it's doing wonderfully there. Now I'll zoom back out so I can see everything. Now, you know, I might also want to look at my function f1 at say 52. And oops, when I do that, it says it's undefined. And yeah, it's undefined because f1 was up here, and it doesn't have the interval that contains 52 in it, so I should have used f2. Well, if I want one piecewise defined function, that's going to become a pain. And so here's a nifty thing we can do, and this is why I called this first one F1, the second one F2, is now I'm going to do my P. Now I'm still going to use X, P of X equals, and I'm still going to do it as a piecewise defined function, but now I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to go from 1 less than or equal to X to less than or equal to this last number here, 24, do my colon, and then say F1 of X, like that. And notice, as soon as I did that, this is in black color, and it went right over what I had before. But now I can do comma and go from 25 to X less than or equal to 199, and that new rule is F2 of X. So I just use that in there, and now I have a single function that will do all the values I've been able to put in so far. So I can do P of 4, and notice it says 19.92. But then if I do P of 52, it's happy with that as well, and it says 31.82. So this is how we're going to enter much bigger piecewise defined functions with lots of intervals. We'll enter a little bit at a time, and then we'll put them all together like this. And if we need to sort of go up a little at a time, so for instance, we could do an F1, F2, maybe it takes us till F6, and then we could do maybe a G1 that did F1, F2, and F3, and a G2 that did F4, F5, and F6, and then finally our P of X that has them all in it. That's how we're going to work on these piecewise defined functions, and this is why, again, because I'm losing by pulling this out, I lose graphing territory over here, so that's not a good idea to keep that all the time. But I can pull it out so I can kind of see what I'm doing. I could have made these a little bigger to begin with, and then though I can pull it back to get a bigger graphing area so I can see my function a little better. Okay, so that's it for this video on looking at defining the piecewise functions and doing a little of the technical capabilities with them.